Listen to this heartfelt poem. They built towers that kissed the sky. They carved stones that would never die. But still, one thing remains unseen. The quiet voice that lies between right and wrong, truth and lie. That voice, that miracle, is you and I. We admire what's built by hands, but sometimes forget the quiet power built inside the heart. This story is about that quiet power. What if I told you that the most extraordinary wonder in the world is not made of stone, or gold, or ancient secrets, but made of something quiet, gentle, invisible, a whisper in the heart, a pause before a wrong choice, a tear when no one is watching, a moment of honesty when no one would ever know. You see, the world celebrates pyramids, palaces, and planets. But Leo Tolstoy, one of the most powerful writers in human history, once said, "I do not know the 7 wonders of the world, but I do know the 8th, the human conscience." And today, my friend, he is our hero. This is not just a story. This is not just an English lesson. This is a journey into the heart of a man who saw deeper than most, who gave the world stories, yes, but gave something far greater. A mirror to see yourself, not your face, but your soul. In the next 40 minutes, you won't just improve your English. You will meet a man who once lived with great wealth and gave it all up. A man who searched for meaning, not in castles or crowns, but in the ethics of ordinary people, in love, sacrifice, and truth. You'll hear stories, you'll learn new words, and most of all, you'll feel something stir inside you. A light, a voice, something that says, maybe I have a miracle inside me, too. Let's begin our journey with Chapter 1, The Man Who Saw Deeper. Chapter number 1, The Man Who Saw Deeper. Take a moment to hear this touching poem. Not gold nor stone, but hearts that break are where true wonders often wake. Not thrones or crowns, but quiet grace. The bravest soul has the softest face. This poem isn't just words. It's a window into the kind of soul Tolstoy was. Let's step into his world. Who was Leo Tolstoy? Not just a writer, not just a thinker. He was a storm and a silence. He was a man who once had everything: wealth, land, respect. But he felt empty. Something was missing, and that something was not outside. It was inside. He was born in Russia in 1828, into a noble family, a world of comfort. But his childhood was touched by loss. He lost his mother at just 2 years old, his father a few years later. Loneliness grew in his heart, and questions followed. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? Is happiness found in money or fame? Or is there something more? As a young man, he tried everything: gambling, war, pleasure. He searched in every corner. But still, he felt a quiet ache, a voice that said, "This is not who you are." So he started writing, but not just stories. He wrote about life, about death, about truth. He used words like a mirror, so that people could see themselves clearly. In War and Peace, he showed the beauty and the horror of being human. In Anna Karenina, he showed how love can destroy and save. But even after all his fame, he walked away from it. He gave up wealth. He wore simple clothes. He lived like a farmer, and he searched for truth. Because Tolstoy didn't want to write about heroes. He wanted people to become them. Not on battlefields, but in everyday life. He believed the greatest fight was not outside. It was within. This is the man who saw deeper. Let's walk further into his world, into his words, his choices, his legacy. Chapter number 2, the book that taught souls. Tune into this emotional piece of poetry. Not every book has pages and ink. Some are written in silence and in sorrow. Some teach us not how to speak, but how to feel. That little poem, it reminds us the deepest stories don't just live on pages, they live inside us. And Tolstoy knew that better than anyone. Have you ever read a book that didn't entertain you, but changed you? A book that left you quiet after the final page? For millions, that book was War and Peace, written by Tolstoy, but shaped by life itself. It was not just a story, it was a world, a mirror, a question. It asked, why do we go to war? Why do we love the wrong people? Why do we suffer? Why do we keep hoping? It was not about kings. It was about you and me. About fear and dreams and death and meaning. His characters were not perfect. They were broken. They were real. They made mistakes. They doubted. They searched. Just like us. But Tolstoy's gift wasn't just storytelling. It was honesty. He didn't lie to the reader. He didn't make life easy. He showed it as it is. Brutal. Beautiful. Confusing. That's why War and Peace is still read today, because it speaks to something eternal. It teaches us that the biggest battles are not fought with swords, but inside the human soul. And then came Anna Karenina, a woman torn between duty and desire, between love and truth. This book didn't tell you who to love. It asked you what love truly is. Is love only passion? Or is it sacrifice? Is it freedom? Or is it loyalty? Tolstoy made readers uncomfortable, but not to hurt them, to wake them up. He believed books should not only entertain, they should transform. Today we scroll, we swipe, we skim. But back then, a book like Tolstoy's was an earthquake. It didn't just pass the time, it stopped time. Through his words, he gave people new eyes, new questions, new courage. He didn't teach English, but he taught something deeper. Human language, soul language. Let's keep going. Now that we've seen his words, let's feel his values in real life. Chapter number 3, a true story of ethics. Experience the depth of this moving poem. What is right is not always rewarded. What is honest is not always easy. But what is true will always shine, even in the dark, even when unseen. What that poem whispers, Tolstoy lived every day. He believed real power isn't loud, it's honest. And sometimes it's found in the smallest acts. Once, there was a boy. He found a wallet on a quiet street. Inside, money, a lot of it. Enough to change his week, maybe even his month. No one saw him. No cameras. No people. No voice telling him what to do. Just silence and the sound of his own heart. He looked around, and then he looked within. He waited. He thought. He remembered something his mother once said. What you do when no one is watching, that is who you are. So the boy took the wallet to a nearby shop. He gave it to the clerk. He walked away, with no applause, no reward, just peace. Later, the wallet was returned to its owner. The man was shocked. He had nearly given up hope. He never met the boy. He didn't even know his name. But somewhere in the city, a miracle had happened. A quiet one, a simple one, a true one. That story may seem small, but Tolstoy would say, that is the greatest kind of story. Not the ones with war, not the ones with kings, the ones with character, with ethics, with truth. Tolstoy believed, morality is not about rules. It's about choice. Not punishment, but inner peace. In his later life, he became obsessed with ethical living. He stopped eating meat. He gave away money. He lived like the poor. Not to impress, but to be honest with his soul. He once said, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. That quote is not just wise, it's a challenge. To you, to me, to anyone who dares to listen to their conscience. So today, ask yourself, what would I do if no one ever knew? Because that is your true self. Let's keep going. Let's go even deeper into the quote that inspired this journey. Chapter number 4, The Eighth Wonder. Let this heartfelt poem speak to you. They built pyramids from stone and sweat. They crossed oceans with wind and will. But the quiet voice inside the heart, that was the wonder they always missed. This verse isn't just about buildings or beauty. It's a reminder that the greatest wonders might be the ones we carry inside us every day. We know the 7 wonders: the Great Wall, the Taj Mahal, the pyramids. Wonders of power, wonders of beauty. But Tolstoy, he wasn't impressed. He saw something else, something more invisible, more fragile, more powerful. He once said, I do not know the 7 wonders of the world, but I do know the 8th, the human conscience. Pause for a moment. Let that sink in. He was saying, you are the 8th wonder. Not your body, not your brain, but your ethics. Your ability to know right from wrong. Isn't that amazing? Think about it. You can be alone, in a room, with no one around, and still feel what's right. Still feel what's wrong. Where does that come from? Who taught it? Where does it live? We don't talk about it, but we all feel it. The moment before a lie. The silence before a secret. The ache after we hurt someone. That is the conscience. It doesn't shout. It doesn't punish. It whispers. It waits. Tolstoy believed that conscience was more valuable than any treasure, because it cannot be bought. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be destroyed. Only one person can silence it. You. But if you listen to it, if you protect it, if you feed it with truth, you become powerful in the quietest way. He believed that building a good life didn't start with money, or education, or even success. It started with a moral foundation, a life built on kindness, on compassion, on courage. That, he believed, was the real miracle. The world is obsessed with what we build: careers, followers, fortunes. But Tolstoy asked, "What are you building inside?" Let's now move into the next chapter, a story not just about a man, but about the lives his soul awakened. Chapter number 5, A Soul That Changed Souls. Feel the emotion in every word of this poem. One candle lights another, and the flame moves on. From heart to heart, from mind to mind, until the world begins to glow. This poem? It's how Tolstoy lived. He passed the light forward, and now we follow that light from one heart to another. Tolstoy was one man, one voice, one soul. But his light, it didn't stay small. It spread across borders, across languages, across centuries. You see, some people die when they stop breathing. Others live forever, because their truth never stops speaking. Tolstoy was one of those souls. After he gave up wealth, he began writing letters. Not for fame, not for politics, but for peace. He believed the greatest power was not in armies or weapons, but in ideas. He believed violence was a failure of imagination. That anger was fear in disguise. And that love was not weakness, it was strength of the highest form. He wrote letters to strangers, to farmers, to teachers, to leaders. But one letter would change history. In 1908, Leo Tolstoy wrote a letter to a young lawyer in South Africa. That man was Mohandas Gandhi. In the letter, Tolstoy praised Gandhi's use of nonviolent resistance. He called it the most powerful weapon known to man. He encouraged Gandhi to keep going, to keep believing, to lead with love, even when hated. Gandhi was deeply moved. He later said, "Tolstoy's truth awakened something in me. His words were like medicine to the soul." That one letter became a bridge between two continents, between two revolutions. Gandhi called his movement Satyagraha, truth, force, and its roots came from Tolstoy's faith in the human conscience. And it didn't stop there, because Gandhi's dream inspired a preacher in America, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. King read Tolstoy. He studied Gandhi. He carried their message forward, marching, preaching, dreaming, all without violence. So think about this. One man, in Russia, writing by candlelight. He started a ripple That became a wave. That changed the world. And he didn't lead armies. He didn't hold office. He just believed that ethics were stronger than hate. That truth was more powerful than fear. That is the miracle of conscience. It multiplies. One soul chooses the light, and suddenly, thousands follow. But this wasn't easy for Tolstoy. He was attacked, banned. His own church rejected him. His own country silenced his books. But he kept going. Because when you walk with truth, you walk alone at first. But not forever. In his final years, Tolstoy was a spiritual rebel. He questioned tradition. He rejected status. He chased simplicity. He once wrote, "The more I understand, the more I love all beings." He found peace, not in temples or gold, but in a tree, a walk, a shared smile. He believed that love, real love, was action. Not words, not gifts, but honesty, compassion, courage. And that became his legacy. Not just his books, but the light he passed on. So let's look again. You've heard of Gandhi, of Martin Luther King, of peaceful marches, of fearless leaders. Behind them, a quiet writer, with a pen and a soul on fire. It makes you wonder, how much impact can one good person make? Maybe more than we ever imagined. And maybe, just maybe, you could be that person for someone else. With your voice, with your courage, with your quiet choice to do the right thing when it's hard. Because the soul that chooses ethics, that chooses love, doesn't just live once. It lives again and again through others. Let's now enter our final chapter. One last walk through the quiet voice and the loudest truth. Chapter number 6, The Quietest Voice and the Loudest Truth. Let this poem take you forward, not inward but outward. You won't know the day your words take root. You won't see the face of the one you moved. But still your light lives on in someone else's tomorrow. That's not just poetry, that's legacy. And Leo Tolstoy? He didn't just write it, he lived it. The legacy you don't see. Tolstoy didn't set out to become a legend. He just followed a question. What is the right thing to do? And he asked it again, and again, and again. He walked away from comfort. He challenged the church. He rewrote the way a rich man could live with honor. He didn't want statues. He wanted humanity. And even though he died on a cold wooden bench in a train station, his ideas got up and kept walking. Seeds that grew in other souls. A young lawyer in South Africa. Read his work. He was inspired. He became Gandhi. Decades later, Gandhi inspired Martin Luther King Jr. And the idea that one man can stand peacefully and still shake an empire, that came from Tolstoy. No speeches, no armies, just a pen and a conscience. True stronger than time. He rejected medals, he ignored praise, he rewrote fame into something deeper. Meaning, he said, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. That's what he did, until his last breath. He didn't want you to remember him. He wanted you to remember yourself. And what about you? You don't need to write novels. You don't need a stage. But you do need a compass. And it's already in you. Your life is a letter to someone you may never meet. So write it well, with truth, with love, with courage. Closing poem. No one will see the spark when you choose honesty. No music plays when you return the lost money. But one day, someone will remember the warmth you left behind. Be that warmth, be the wonder, and let your life be the answer to someone else's silent question. Thank you for staying till the end. What touched your heart most? Share your thoughts in the comments. And tell me, what soul should we explore next?